Gamebreaker TV.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to GuildCast, episode 51 for November 28th. Man, it's almost December. You're watching Gamebreaker. This is GuildCast. I'm Gary Gannon. Today, it's not even December, but we're going to talk about Wintersday. ArenaNet talks gear progression, and if you need a makeover, ArenaNet got you. All that and more. But first, from Zam.com's editor-in-chief, what's up, Mr. Scott Hawks? How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Fantastic. Klaus, and joining us from Massively.com, Elizabeth Clare. How are you?
Good. How's your day?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Little inside joke at the top there. We launched a new show on Gamebreaker TV called Klaus and Squirrel. It is all the rage. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend. Please go over to Gamebreaker.tv, watch Klaus and Squirrel. It's on the front page. Find it, watch it. Even though it's not Guild Wars 2, just watch it. Maybe we'll convince them to play Guild Wars 2 someday, but please watch it. It's getting rave reviews.
That'd be beautiful.
That's all I know. It's getting rave reviews. People seem to love it. Somebody actually called it the next Red versus Blue. That's something I saw, which that's a pretty good compliment. All right, let's kick it off this week. I wish I had some Christmas music queued up. I failed today. Wintersday is almost here. It's kicking off on December 14th. And check this out. It's December 14th, lasting till January 3rd. What's up with this? What's up with this long event? This is the longest event we've seen so far from the ANETs.
Thankfully.
That's a little longer, I think, than the Guild Wars 1 ones were. But yeah, it's nice to see that, you know, Christmas isn't a 2-day event that they're expecting everyone to log in and experience once. So good stylistic choice there, I think.
Gotta help with the pacing.
That gives you presents for 20 days.
Yes.
Which is great. I'm all up for that, except that I might need surgery after that many Christmas dinners. It will be quite painful.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this kind of fixes and helps the pace a little bit after the last karka like nonstop for 3 days last week. So
it also gives players a chance to do a little bit more of what they want, because you had this idea that, you know, even if you could only play for a limited time during that weekend, you felt like you had to do the Karka stuff because it was only going to be there for those 3 days. Whereas now, like, if I want to play, you know, just a dungeon, I don't necessarily feel like I'm missing out on something vital by doing so.
And it also decreases the chances of having huge lag.
Yes.
At any one spot throughout whatever point, instead of funneling everybody to the same place at the same time, maybe you'd be a little more relaxed, which would be good. It's a holiday. You want to take your time.
Really quick side note. I should have put this at the top of the show. Richie just had another event. He'll be back next week. Don't worry. But following up on what you just said, we don't know much. We don't know really anything about the mechanics of this. We don't have any idea of what they're really going to do. But I mean, we could still see specific days within that time frame have major events that do kind of have the same impact as we've seen with Karka.
We could.
You're just praying we don't.
No, I don't mind as much this time if they do, because if there's bugs and problems with it, there's enough time to fix it and for everybody to take part. And so they can spread it across across those days and take the time with it a bit more. They've got a bit more time to respond to issues, and they've got a little more time to make sure everything's working as intended.
Liz, what did they used to do in Guild Wars 1?
So in Guild Wars 1, you'd have affected drop rates throughout the world, so you had a chance to get candy cane shards or whatever when you killed a normal monster. They'd also have a snowball arena where people would go and duke it out between different teams, obviously, and pelt each other with snowballs. So they had that. They would have decorations in towns, all sort of things that were kind of a perpetually going thing. So if they add content in over time, I would imagine it would be stuff like, okay, now the snowball arena is open. Now this is up. You know, now the towns are decorated, sort of thing, as opposed to now Dwayne and Grenth are actually appearing in Lion's Arch. Who knew? Sort of thing.
So basically, it's a holiday event that used to be very religious, and now it's basically completely commercialized, just all about presents.
I don't know what that sounds like at all.
Doesn't sound familiar, does it?
Nope.
No. Nothing.
I think we called that at some point in speculation, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and say we did.
What other details do we have on... What else have they talked at all about what's going to happen on Winter's Day in 2? Nothing? Zero zilch?
Pretty much nothing.
Like, here's the dates and sit and wait.
Toy maker ticks. And
yeah. Little toy maker who's going around in his airship.
Sylvari children toys, for sure.
What
do you expect? What do you want to see? What do you think? Is it all about being fun? Are there going to be mass invasions during Christmas?
I can't imagine there would be, and if there were, I imagine they would be very
goofy,
tongue-in-cheek, if not fourth wall breaking. Like, I don't know what that is, but they've never been super serious about holidays. So if they do something, I would see it being very goofy and lighthearted, which is awesome. I really want to see, like, Sylvari strung up with Christmas lights in the town square.
See, I want lots of really pissed off Sylvari. People keep pulling presents underneath them.
Exactly.
Oh
getting
my God.
annoyed by it
People
constantly. That's what I
people
want
just
to
keep
see.
putting
Little star
tinsel
hats
on
for
them
'em.
and like balls and stuff. Sorry,
still.
get your balls off of me. Stand still.
They keep putting little rugs around their feet to hold them still.
You don't think there's going to be some sort of like warring though going on in this event at all?
If there is, I would speculate that it would be symbolic, as part of like a human carried down tradition between Duena and Grunth, but I don't think that's going to be there. Again, like anything that they would put in, I would envision being very, like, even if it had a combat element to it, very lighthearted.
And I guess it would be.
I can see a lot of.
Go ahead.
So I can see a lot of mini game style stuff going
Yeah.
on. You know, sort of seasonal keg brawl versions, things like that, being put into the game across that time. But the battle part of it, I'm not so sure.
I mean, I guess it is. It's probably incredibly hard to come up with lore-wise, like an event that's going to work for all the different races for something like this for a holiday. That's got to be kind of a thing. But it's an awesome idea. I love when games kind of do this. Now, what about this? I mean, the airship. I'm going to show a picture of it in a second. I mean, I think this is an awesome idea. The airship that's going to, like, you know, bring toys around to all the major cities and just fly around. It's kind of freaking scary, though. Like, it's like menacing. Look at this thing. It's like Big Brother coming to eat you.
Super perfect for the Asura. Like, they want to make something that's fun and lighthearted, but they just don't have, like, the empathy to understand what's actually terrifying. They're like, oh, you know, they love humanoid, like, creatures, and so this will just be like a big friendly, and no, it's actually horrifying.
It really is horrifying.
I can see an event where the airship just screws up and eventually you've got to basically defuse it before it blows the entire city up. I can see
before it goes on a stomping rampage.
Yeah.
Have they talked a bit about like where it's going to take place? I mean, I'm getting a little sick of Lion's Arch.
So all the major cities will be decorated, but I don't know if there's going to be like a central event, in which case I would imagine it takes place in Lion's Arch. Previously in Guild Wars 1, like Commodon, which obviously isn't a part of this game yet, or potentially ever, I don't know, and Draknar's Forge and a couple other places would also be decorated for holidays. So there's a chance that like every city will have every event of whatever type's going on, but they'll certainly all be decorated so you can get your holiday cheer without going to Lion's Arch.
So you hoping? I guess what could be really fun too is if there's a bit more like RP-ish kind of like events. If there's no warring, that there's just certain days with certain events that happen, and maybe there's like a tree lighting. I don't know if they're gonna be trees, but I'm just like, you know, maybe like to do like, you know, that night you show up for that, and maybe there's like ice skating night, you know, and like. What are you mouthing? That would be so cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we all go to like, you know, go to the Norn area where there's keg brawl, and maybe there's like an ice skating rink, and it's sort of like, you know, the Times Square-ish kind of thing, and everybody goes ice skating, and then, you know, then you're just hanging out and everybody gets scared because this shows up. It's like Godzilla. It's like people are gonna run for their lives. Like you're just skating around, like, oh, this is fun. Oh my god!
And it looks just massive. I mean,
it looks like something Doctor Who would turn up to defeat. It just looks wrong. So many.
It really looks
Child.
wrong. I don't even know what it is. It's so wrong. It's so menacing. I love it. It's actually brilliant because if it was like goofy, I would like it less. I don't know. Can't wait for December 14th. You think you're gonna? When do you think we'll see some more details on this? I mean, we've got 2 weeks to wait for actual. Like, I mean, we just know the event. Do you think they maybe won't give us any details and just have to wait for the event, just see what happens?
I think they might just do a lot of teasing before it rather than releasing full details of it. Especially if it's not going to be the sort of invasion kind of thing. If it's lots of fun little mini games, hopefully it's going to be sort of, they're going to have that, shall we say, Christmas Day feel to it, where you're going to run around and discover all the stuff for yourself. Oh look, okay. Maybe they'll have it like the sort of little games that are set up already in places like Divinity's Reach that aren't all open yet. Maybe we'll get some of those sort of stalls and like a sort of fair going on to do little mini games running throughout. I can see a lot of that going on.
And then I could see some fun stuff like remember in beta when they did the Hunger Games thing, and not saying the Hunger Games because that's not very festive, but
everybody starved to death for Christmas.
No, but I could see them doing some things with the mechanics and maybe like snowball fights and maybe making them not just like throwing snowballs at each other, but actually get into a game. Maybe people get knocked out and maybe turn into something else and get like transmuted to something like another kind of like creature. They could probably do some fun stuff like that. That would be kind of fun as well. I just gave
lots of people can turn into snowmen.
There you go.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching chat room and they're saying ArenaNet should just hire me because apparently they like my ideas of like ice skating, tree lighting, and I don't know, maybe turning into snowmen.
I really want a snowman dungeon.
Snowman dungeon.
That's what I want.
As long as there's more than one phase to it, that's fine.
Does it have agony? All right, we're coming up next. We're going to talk director Chris Whiteside hopped onto Reddit for an AMA and dropped a bunch of info. But really quick, I want to tell you guys an awesome game. Rift Storm Legion. Rift just dropped a new expansion called Storm Legion. I'm really proud to have these guys on as a sponsor. I've been playing tons of Storm Legion. If you guys have not checked it out, go over to stormlegion.com. They just released their new expansion full of tons of great content. If you're an MMO player, you will absolutely love it. Check it out. There's like new dungeons. There's 2 new huge continents. The continents are absolutely freaking huge. Like I can't even tell you. They've tripled the size of the game just with this expansion. It's crazy. Great stories. Tempest Bay, which is their new island city, which is just fantastic. Bunch of great stuff there. If you've played
the best player housing of every game.
The best.
Seriously, we're going to talk a little bit about player housing later on about Guild Wars, and I gotta say, if they don't come close to, if they ever do put Guild, it's almost like now if you're gonna do Guild, like any kind of housing, you've got to do this because now if you don't do this, you're screwed. Because they really, if you guys have not checked out Dimensions, which is their player housing, go YouTube it, go check it out, or download the trial as well. You can download. There's a free to 20 trial for Rift. They've got a great deal in the expansion. So if you own Rift, it's $40, and if you don't own the core game of Rift, you can buy it for $50 with the core game. So that's pretty awesome. There's 7 new dungeons in the game, so 3 raids, a chronicle, new PvP souls. That's another thing a lot of players of Rift really love is the soul system. Just a very, very different game than some of the other MMOs out there. It's definitely probably my favorite MMO out there. Actually, I'll be honest, I'm playing a ton of it. And Dimensions. I've literally spending way too many hours in Dimensions. I still am. It's ridiculous. Their player housing is just crazy. It's completely build whatever you want. Think Minecraft with awesome graphics, steampunk, build everything with every board, every stone, every tree, everything. You have to place everything and build it. So it's pretty damn awesome. All right, so next up, studio design director Chris Whiteside. He jumped onto Reddit for an AMA, which is Ask Me Anything if you guys don't go on the Reddit. I know some of you guys hate the Reddit. And I pulled out a couple highlight quotes. So first up, he said, I would also like to add that we have never said there would be no vertical progression. Dum, dum, dun. The internet goes crazy. He said, we do intend to focus on horizontal, but we will have vertical progression moving forward with the focus on zero grind and a very low power curve. Scott, the vertical progression, it burns, it burns!
You know when you think to yourself, oh, I wish people hadn't said it quite that way?
Minimal grind, perhaps.
Confusing.
Minimal.
Minimum
Maybe
zero
I'll give you
grind?
that.
We know
Wow,
what
so
he meant. We know what he meant.
Zero
Come on.
grind.
Zero
Wow.
is, he shouldn't have used the word zero. But come on, let's cut the guy some slack.
We never said we wouldn't do vertical progression. That's not quite... The problem with this is if they'd come out and really explained in detail the long-term sort of outline and rollout for ascended items before they came out, I think a lot of the worry and a lot of the backlash and a lot of the consternation that's been shown around would have been halved at least. But they've come out, and to do that AMA and face up to criticism that quickly and show that much responsiveness is brilliant.
Yes.
But unfortunately, in that kind of open forum, it's very easy to lose the focus of your message, and that kind of happened at places there. And it gave people a few vagaries to jump on and to start going, then this means that they are going to do exactly the things that I'm terrified that they're going to do. And I can actually understand why people got a bit confused and concerned. I mean, things were clarified later, but some of the phrasing in that doesn't quite help them in their cause.
Don't you think, see, it was like, go ahead, Liz, I'm going to wait. Go ahead.
Something, and this is kind of similar to something I said about their reaction to their one-time events. So, like their one-time events, they're great at recovering from them and fixing problems, but they're not great yet at making sure those problems don't happen. And likewise, they're really great at coming out a week or two afterwards and saying, hey, this is what we meant, let's answer all your questions, clear out these concerns. And most people, their concerns are alleviated. But they're not good at having a blog post the day they announce Ascension being like, hey, this is what's up. Ascension was actually built into this game from the beginning. We just didn't have the content for it yet. And we actually don't plan to add anything for at least another year in the foreseeable future beyond that. We don't want to move beyond Ascended rarity. And, we have this thing and we're going to put these fears to rest. They don't do that up front, so they lose all this ground to panic and the idiocy of the masses that they know they're going to have to deal with at some point. So I really, I so appreciate the fact that they do this sort of thing, but I wish they would either do it on the day of or write it out beforehand so you don't have to go back and do this and wade into the trenches
Well, I hate to say, because it's a text situation. It's an AMA. They had to sit and write this. He typed it. It's not like they were in a live interview session where somebody put them on the spot. So they had time to think about it. They actually hit the publish button.
It's almost like they need to get half a dozen people to be as paranoid as humanly possible, and then just tell them something is coming up, then wait for them to freak out, and then write their actual release based on what questions come up from that in private before it's released.
I feel like you can't. I feel like developers. I feel like they cannot. They'll never get away from this. I feel like it's impossible. I mean, the other game that I remember was everything was under Microsoft. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Everything. People are just. So they look at every little word and hang on. I mean, when I read that he said zero grind, my brain, I gotta cut him some slack because as an MMO player, you understand you're just there's no such thing as that. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So my brain went well, if they make it relatively easy for acquiring gear, and wait, if they make it fun to acquire the gear. And the word grind doesn't come to mind then, and that's what I sort of feel like they're more going for here.
Yeah, it is what they're more going for, but they're not explaining in a way that makes that clear to everyone who's hanging on their every word. And there are hundreds of thousands of people who are hanging on their every word. So if you come out and you leave those sort of explanations in there, people freak out, and then you end up having to explain the explanation that you did. And if, as someone just said in chat, and explaining things from the angle of they know where this is going, but we don't. So they need to explain it from the angle of from people who don't know where this is all going. So they'll put the first part of this out, and in the long term it might not be a big problem. But because we don't know where it's ending up, it could be in a variety of ways, and some of those ways are problematic.
Yeah,
so people worry about that.
Are we supposed to be privileged or something to know every little the roadmap and the design doc for the game to know exactly where this is going? Just because we pay if we bought the box, we should know everything you guys are doing and where this is going. I don't think we're privy to that information.
No, but if you come out within a few months of releasing your game and introduce a new gear tier without explaining where that's going, people are rightly, in many ways, going to be concerned of where that's going to go. So you need to make it clear the intent of this beforehand, so it cuts off a lot of those concerns and issues and PR problems in the bud before it even hits the server.
Liz, the floor is yours.
Scott said a lot of what I wanted to say. My issue wasn't so much with the fact that he said, zero grind. It was the fact that they didn't think about preparing this sort of FAQ document for it beforehand. I mean, the first real information we got on Legendaries was on November 13th, which was a couple days before the patch. But the first sentence we got, sorry, not Legendaries, Ascended. The first sentence we got was just that we're introducing Ascended items, artifacts of great power that can be improved by special type of new upgrade called infusions, which can only be found in dungeons.
Items of great power, and people
and there was
worried there's going to be a vertical gear grind.
There was no, like, hey, don't panic. There was no, hey, we understand that you probably have concerns. Here's our response to them before you get in a tiz about them. Like, it just wasn't there. And it's rarely ever there. And that's just a weird strategy.
If that is said, Ascended is going to be the new tier of gear. However, it's going to be a very low vertical increase, and it's going to be rolled out over a very long period of time. So do not be worried that we're going to create a gear grind. That is not our intent, and that is not going to happen. If they assess that first off, which to me would seem to be quite obvious that would be a concern, and like a wildly obvious thing that's going to be a concern, seeing Guild Wars 2 is trying to set itself apart from other MMOs who are based around that. If they'd have said that beforehand, I think it would have been logical, really, rather than, you wouldn't need to be an oracle to foresee this happening.
Next up, Chris had this to say. He said, Ascended gear will be obtainable throughout the whole of the game, aside from structured PvP, and in retrospect, it would have been better to have rolled out different acquisition methods out at the same time as the fractals of the mists. All right, I won't even ask the first question that comes to mind, which was, does everybody believe this was the complete intention, or is it now?
The problem is, again, statements like that make you, so why did they roll it out without having other, did they feel they needed to because they've looked at their metrics and need to get something out quick because they're concerned? Maybe, maybe not.
Or why not roll it out and at least give some explanation around it and say, hey, this is ready, but this and this is coming, so don't freak out. I mean, once they do roll this out, I mean, Liz, does this fix a lot of the problems people had with the new gear?
It does, because suddenly you don't have to do this one dungeon type to have the advantage in the game. Like, you can get it presumably doing a lot of things, or the whole game, aside from structured PvP. So that'll take away a lot of the concern about, well, I don't like dungeons, but I don't want to be at a disadvantage in World versus World, and I need those 5 stat points. I need them. I need them.
And not just specifically that, just the sense that you feel that you're having to take part in a grind to get them. Because you have to repeatedly do fractals over and over to get to the level that you need to do to get the Ascended items. So people feel like you're pushing us towards a grind when their intent is not to have a grind. Which makes sense when you look at it, if that's distributed across different streams of content. Makes absolute sense. But without knowing that, it looks like a grind.
What is it?
Get better gear.
What do both of your guts like tell you? Do you feel like they're reacting to they're being reactive to just a situation? And so, I don't want to say making it up on the fly, but they are implementing things, looking at data, putting out statements, looking at data, putting out statements. Like do you think that there's like a little bit of a gray area here with how this whole system is going to work, but they can't really come out and say that?
I don't know as much they're making things up on the fly as they have a rollout calendar, and they're bringing things forward quicker than they would have because of the response. And that's why you've got it only in fractals rather than across different levels of content. It might be they already had this planned out. They'd looked at their numbers, we need to do this, and so they planned it across the next year to do this. then looked at metrics, looked at people's response, and go, oh God, we need to get something out this quick. We can put those in fractals, and that'll boost the people wanting to play fractals, so that'll be a success. And let's not forget about the rest of that content patch. And then, that'll work. Oh crap, maybe it makes it look bad now that we haven't got the rest of the stuff ready. So I don't think they're just making it up. I just think they're releasing things earlier than perhaps they plan to because of response.
I tend to agree. I don't necessarily think that this is something that they're making up as they go along. I just think that it's very easy as a dev to like see the long view, see where it's going, and have it all make sense. And so you start introducing it to players, and you don't realize that, without that long view, it can be a very concerning thing to say. I mean, I don't think it was until the AMA that they said, we do not in the foreseeable future anticipate releasing another tier of rarity aside from, developing Ascended. I don't think they had said that before, and so that's a week and a half that you've got people, and you as a developer, you're like, no, it totally makes sense. Like we had Ascended in from like the long run, we just didn't have fractals in, so there's no way to get it, so there's no point talking about it. So it's totally cool. And then you've got players who are like, but you never what? And so I feel like they're just, yeah.
Yeah, they're explaining something to us from the big picture, but they're only showing us the small picture. So it doesn't make sense with the message that they're giving to what we see compared to what they see.
And then players make up a lot of questions on their own, and then they spin out of control, and that's what we do. So
because they're filling in the gaps that we have compared to what they see, which is understandable.
So how do you see that? Hopefully, I guess you think you will be able to get this gear through crafting, soloing, trading posts, dub v dubs. I mean, do you think it's going to be all of the above going forward?
Hopefully. I mean, that sounds like all the areas of the game except for SPVP.
I guess the next thing I think of is then, does that mean that we're going to see the agony mechanic a lot more throughout the game? Because, I mean, is that something that you think they're going to move towards more as like not a normal mechanic, but not just something that's confined?
The problem is if they start introducing it into things like whole zones, shall we say. And, that would be problematic, especially if it's to the point where instead of it being just a little harder, it's actually the difference between success and failure. That's the danger with it. So, if you're not going to have it, if you're going to have it outside of just dungeons, they're going to have to be incredibly careful with how they implement it, because it could make people feel like it's gated content, and then people will get annoyed.
Mm-hmm. In Guild Wars 1, I mean, you could survive without infused armor against Spectral Agony, but there are places where you didn't necessarily want to go without it, and in Guild Wars 1 it was so easy to infuse your armor that there was really no reason to not have every set you had infused. So I know it's a different mechanic, but they've done something like that before where you had a token need to infuse against something, but yeah.
All right, next up, Chris had this to say. He said, something that is universally enjoyable as a progression system or a reward should be as accessible as possible and cater to the different ways our players consume the game, but in a manner in which the community of the world as a whole is contributing to each other's overall experience.
Okay. Great.
Agreed?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of what we expected.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like getting a reward? I mean, that's what a progression system is. That's what loot's all about. I mean,
well, that's Guild Wars 2's thing. Is essentially you get rewarded for doing everything. For exploring, you get rewarded for pretty much everything. You'll get a reward to work towards something. So it's what we would expect is that this gear is something that would fit along that paradigm as well. It's the fact that because we'd only see it in dungeons, it didn't fit with that paradigm, so therefore it meant that it became problematic. If it's spread out, so you can have multiple different content streams to get to it, then cool, because that's what the rest of the game does.
I don't know. Are you happy with this answer, Liz? I mean, are people just going to complain? Or is it just kind of the most PC correct question we could...
I mean, people are going to complain, but
the internet.
That sentence and statement is fine with me.
All right, next up, Chris said this. He said, both personal story and home instances are areas that I wish we'd spent more time on already in terms of content since release. However, we will be building on them as we move forward and would love to hear more of your thoughts in regards to the direction you would like to see them move in. In short, you can expect to see big things. I'm going to unpack this for one quick second before we can get into this. I mean, you can expect to see big things, but give us your ideas. Isn't that a little scary?
Messaging.
I'm sorry. I don't want to nitpick everything, but I get a little scared when he's like, hey, where do you guys want to see this go? Big things are coming, but we don't have any, so we'll wait for you to come up with them.
They can have plans and still be open to suggestions.
But it reads like that. He does a call out for where people want to see it go, and then he goes, big things are coming. I'm sure they have ideas. They're not stupid people. But I'm just saying it was a little odd to me. That statement out of all of these felt a little bit weird.
Honestly, I feel so bad for him because I mean, this guy like got up in the morning and did this AMA for like hours and
he
went home and carried on doing it.
Yeah, well,
so by the end, he must have been like a deer in the headlights. Like, okay, we're being responsive. We got great stuff going. I don't know. What do you want? That's the kind of how it felt.
I know we're goofing off, and he's a great guy.
Props to him for this, though.
Yeah, no, an AMA is not easy, and he probably how big did this thing get? It was like thousands, because I mean, AMAs get out of control. How many things?
It was just not so.
Yeah, so no,
honestly, he must be beaten senseless by questions by the end of that day. So he's just like, honestly, it's gonna be great. Can I help you in any other way? What do you think?
I'm picking it apart, but I'm just gonna say, like, he basically wants our thoughts for the direction on where it's gonna go, but you can expect big things. It's like right back to back, just seems a little bit much. But seriously, I'm happy to hear about this. I can't believe that anybody would not want to hear about this. I mean, there is absolutely no reason to go back to your home instance at this point. Does anybody have a reason?
Baby quaggins. There are baby quaggins in my home instance because I saved the quaggins, so I have baby quaggins whenever I want to see them, and I don't have to fight anything to get to them. I can see baby quaggins whenever I want. I just sit there in the fountain, and they splash around next to me, and it's kind of my happy place, okay?
There you go, Chris. Put that in the FAQ. You want a reason to go back to your home instance? It's because you can have baby quaggins in your home instance.
Baby quaggins.
More quaggins.
Scott, do you have any reason to go back to your home instance?
Not really.
All right, good, because I don't have it.
No, you know, I think the home instance is cool, but I do want there to be more there, more to do, more interactivity, more customizability. Dimensions.
More quaggin.
Dimensions, player housing.
You just make a giant quaggin, wouldn't you?
That you could get in.
Every time you open the door, you go.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think? I mean, I don't know if this is a technical kind of thing, but would you like to see maybe the home instances become more customizable, like player housing in Guild Wars 2?
Heck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect opportunity to do something in there. I can't imagine what else they're gonna do. I mean, the only thing I guess they can do is like, kind of incorporate it again a bit more if they push the other things, the personal story stuff, which I am super like bummed that it's like kind of I want more of that. I really actually really like the personal story. I know some players who have almost skipped all of it. I'm like, really? They're just like, I was whatever. I'm like, that kind of kept me going. Like, I would jump around, but I kept looking forward to those. Oh, I got 2 or 3 levels so I can do my personal story. 2 or 3 levels, and when you get those little gaps and stuff, I loved it. I really want to see more of that. But even then, the home instance and the personal story stuff is like, it's kind of pointless. There's not really much of a good reason for it to be there.
I mean, as a visual interpretation of your quest log, personal story log, of I did this, this, and this, and this, and that means that's there now. It's nice, but it's not something that you're going to get hours unless you're Elizabeth. It's not something you're going to get hours of joy out of. The fact that you're walking, oh, that's cool, oh, I really like that, that's nice, once. And so you need something that's going to bring you back repeatedly in there, and customization, being able to bring. I mean, and also you could have an all extra dimensions game, like artifacts that you could find, trade, or whatever, to bring to your personal like
a quaggin plushie.
Like a quaggin plushie, or you could just shift your entire like personal instance underwater into a quaggin place. And make it into virtually a quaggin hamster cage.
You're blowing her mind right now. She's completely just like, oh my god. Things are exploding in the brain. Next up, Chris was asked about how they could get the player base to make more use of the actual cities. And he said this. He said, we've been discussing this topic for a while. There are lots of things we've brainstormed but are not firmed up on a direction yet. However, here are some ideas to whet your appetite, or not. Events and activities related to town clothes. Cities as dungeons. Player-created events and activities. Non-confrontational material gathering for crafting. These are a few of my favorite things. No, these are just a few at the top of my head. I don't know. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything bad to say about the cities. I like the cities. I go to them. You're just always going back for some reason. There's nothing really bad to say, but all these ideas sound kind of cool. Cities as dungeons. It's kind of crazy.
Clearly, he's hinting at ice skating in Holbrook.
Clearly. Obviously, the Vanu are going to show up.
And I'll happily shoot them in their Mercedes-Benz looking faces. The thing is the cities in Guild Wars 2 are probably... I remember back in beta when we first got to play, or beta, depending on how you want to say it. When we first got to play, they were like jaw-dropping, gobsmacking, eye-bulging, brilliant. And they are incredible. They're my favourite cities in any MMO I've ever played. Absolutely brilliant.
Agreed.
But we need more reason to be there other than going back to do crafting. And adding more dimensions to those cities, I think, is important because it's not making full use of the incredible work they've already put into them by not having better reasons to go around those cities other than, I got that point of interest. And they need that. So I hope they start doing things more with the city.
I mean, traditionally, it's always been a problem. It's changed over time, right? I'm thinking back to like old school days of like single RPGs and stuff like that. And even MMOs in the back in the day, what they would do is they would use the home city as almost like more of an NPC quest giving hub that you almost, I remember back, you would go and talk to an NPC like 30, 40, 50 times back and forth on a quest line. And you'd always go back to them and that's how you progress the story. MMO, the new landscape of MMO questing has kind of moved away from that. They tried to like feed you quests on the fly as things happen and just kind of dynamically just moving throughout the world where you're not feeling that you have to like, travel here to travel back over there, travel back to that point. And I know I kind of miss it a little bit. I think, but then it's hard content to create because that's like personal story, almost single player-esque content where they could have you going back to the city and start learning more about the city through quests and stories with people and having them send you on adventures. But you'd have to go back to those people multiple times to create like a relationship basically with that, quest line. Do you guys miss that? I kind of miss it a little bit.
I do miss it, to be honest, because it takes advantage of identities of characters within the city. And right now, there aren't any. Really, other than outside your personal story. I mean, all that wonderful stuff when you're walking around and you can hear some people chattering and hints about stories and like a rich tapestry of life, and you never have any interaction with that at all.
And we talked about that in beta, and we all kind of speculated. But remember, we all speculated going like, wow, I wonder like if we're gonna like have this long cool like thing about the whole like crater that's in the ground, like and wonder what like there's so much opportunity there, but I guess it's all that's the really hard content to create because that's all story driven basically, VO writing, all that stuff.
There's an entire like culture for each city sitting there dripping around you, but at the moment it's all around you and you don't really. You get the flavor of it, but I really hope that they delve into it more to make you feel part of it, part of the story of each city. Which I think.
How did they deal with that in Guild Wars 1, Liz?
They didn't really. I mean, you'd have, because it had a more traditional quest system, you'd do a lot more of like returning to the same NPC. I think the most recent MMO that's done it best was Secret World, because they had so few NPCs, but you interacted with them so much. You'd have the same NPC for 3 or 4 quests, come and talk to them many times and have these amazing cinematics and stuff. So you really got to know them where you don't necessarily have that except for like maybe your one racial iconic character. Like, my Char has reported to Ritlock Brimstone many times, but you kind of took for granted that you would get to know Ritlock and Logan and all of them. Like, you don't necessarily take for granted that you're going to get to know the cool lady who's parading around with the little Char cubs telling them all about the history, and I really want to, and I can't.
I think that has to move. I think it has to, not to cut you off, but I think it has to move into that space, because if you look at television, that's what happened to television the past few years, right? Like, old school television was like really surface, with just like big characters, and then like HBO, and then you started seeing like things on HBO, and then Battlestar and things like that started taking these like slivers of stories where you would just like you would learn about these, you know, people who almost would seem like peripheral characters that weren't really like the epic hero, and you would like live their life for a little while and hear about the politics of this, that, and the other, and the inner turmoil, and that stuff is super interesting. And I think games have to follow that as well. That's what I'd love to see.
It adds a personality that you can't get just from single strand questing and storyline. If you have like a multitude of different personalities, that creates a world in a way that's much more fleshed out and deep than even the best design and art that you can make a city, and which Guild Wars 2 has. So if you added the level of all these different stories, all these different personalities, the tapestries that come together to make up the city as a personality. I mean, you've already got, when you start off, you've got the underworld, and like, you know, you're an orphan, or you're living on the streets, or nobility, and there's these different levels of society that you're kind of born from, but the only thing you basically know about them is those first few bits. Excuse me. Those first few bits in that personal story. If those were fleshed out in the actual city around you, I think that would add a huge amount to the sort of personality of the game.
Liz, go ahead.
It's also an opportunity I think they kind of missed in the upper levels of the personal storyline. If they had players, you know, going through and being kind of the hero and interacting with, you know, this member of the Vigil to get, you know, this thing ready, and this member of the Priory to find out this secret bit, and this member of this Order of Whispers to, you know, get this one trap in action, you would have had a lot more connection with those NPCs and those orders and explore them more fully, because their orders NPCs are amazing. I just recently got into the Order of Whispers, and Debalt is my mentor, and I love that NPC, and I loved having Siren as an NPC. So they can make these really great NPCs, but then after you have that initial member of the Order who's your buddy, you're stuck with Traherne for the entire rest of the story. And all you know is Traherne, what Traherne wants you to do, so you miss out on the opportunity to meet all these like really wide and beautiful characters.
Traherne, oh god, don't get me started on Traherne. I can't stand Traherne. He's the most. If you're talking about personality, if you want to know what a vacuum of personality is, then having Traherne as your guide through like the majority of the story is exactly how to find out what that's like.
Let's get back to these ideas really quick. Which one of these was one of your favorites? You know, you got activities with events and activities with town clothes. Cities as dungeons, player-created events and activities, and non-confrontational crafting and gathering kind of stuff. These are a few of my favorite things. No, Liz, what's your favorite stuff? What's your
player-created has the most intrigue for me.
Yeah?
I don't imagine they would ever get close to like the upcoming Neverwinter's Foundry, but if they did, it would be amazing.
So what kind of stuff do you want to see?
Player-created events and activities. So whether that's player-created quests or anything that is player-driven is awesome in my book.
Expand on that though. Besides quests, because that takes a whole. I doubt they're thinking about quests, because that takes a whole UI of systems and building. But what about? I mean, are you thinking like maybe I don't know, more tools to just create like, you know, events with calendars and like letting people know things are out? Like, what would they do there? Like, what would player-created events and activities be that you could control?
That'd be nice, because they have such a community for it already. I mean, on almost every server, there's one or two big guilds that are like routinely doing like, hey, we're meeting here for this, and we're doing this over here. So if they had a better in-game support system for that, that'd be awesome. They could do so many things, because they talk so much about their community making the game, and right now they don't have a ton in the game to let the community make it. I mean, essentially, unless you're doing or stuff together, there's not a lot of support for being a community doing awesome things.
All right,
as
so more
Scott
like
has
more.
promoted.
So more like
Yes, I have.
you'd like to see more kind of social-esque tools to kind of tie, events and players and guilds and things like that together to have more communication across lines between just your small group. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that because I kind of like start blacking out. I don't know, shouting things for a while when I start talking about large PvE content for guilds. The thing in that intrigued me, which I think it'd actually be quite easy to implement, is non-confrontational trade skill stuff. Like if there's I don't know, let's say there's an industry within the city and you got to do quests. I know we're not supposed to say that. But where you're going around and doing things for different traders across the city, and then at the end of it, like you could do a barter between NPCs for after you've done enough things to get some get some resources, materials to use for your own stuff, or specific sort of recipes or things like that. That would get you out running around in the city, and you could have some personality going on with the different vendors and things like that, and it'd have something that isn't go and spend an hour killing these things to get the same thing. You could choose between either or, and that would be quite easy to implement. You just have to be careful that it's not so quick to do that it becomes something that imbalances the economy. So having something to do in and around just to have that as an alternative way of getting some materials for crafting, I'd like that.
Well, maybe a part of it is, with Wintersday coming, if they're having different activities happening in each new city, maybe there are different activities and things like that, that might be a good start. What about the cities as dungeons? What do you guys think of that? I mean, that sounds like it could be kind of cool. I mean, would you like to see cities on the regular possibly being taken over that have to be held back by the players?
As long as it's not Karka, I'm fine.
That's all I was thinking about was Karka.
I can just imagine Divinity's Reach as a sewer and Karka coming out of it like, oh, God, really? Can somebody else go take care of that? Can we tell the Queen to just send some guards down there or something? I don't. I smell of fish or enough as it is after the last round. I don't.
It'd be interesting if players just picked one city to defend and just kind of forget all the rest of them. And be like, as long as we've got Lion's Arch, it doesn't really matter if they've taken over Radisum, right? Yeah, that would be really interesting. We saw them kind of playing around with that in the beta events as the finales, stuff coming into the cities. And so it'd be really interesting to see them turn that into a dungeon. Or if they would just have places when the cities, maybe they turn that huge pit into a dungeon, which would be interesting.
Yeah, well, you guys were talking about all that. What's something else that kind of kept coming to mind? I don't know why. Is that I'm harking back to old school MMO memories, and something else that I miss, and is partially this is like part travel system and part questing that we were talking about before with cities. There's not like the personal story makes you feel like you're on like some sort of like really long journey that you're going to travel to distant lands and do things to get to. And after that, you're kind of just like, wow, like that's kind of cool. I wish I could kind of do that again. I wish like NPCs and quests, I wish they would send me on these far long journeys that like are going to take me a long time and be pretty tough and really kind of give me that sense of like, I wonder what the next thing is going to be. I guess maybe that's the personal story that I'm just missing, that once you're done for now.
Yeah, they really need to add more like post 80 or even before 80. Like it'd be a quest, but it'd be a side personal story. And if they do it right, quests aren't by definition bad at all. And the mechanics they've got
personal story.
Yeah, your whole personal story is a quest.
Yeah.
So as long as they're not afraid of using that, it could be a very cool thing.
It's probably some of the hardest content for them to create, though. The most expensive. That's the thing. I feel like creating some of those longer epic stories that have a long arc that take a while are probably much more expensive than, quick, kill and fetch kind of things, and even dynamic events.
I think the issue with it is that if you're going to do them, you're going to have branching multiple choice, basically, versions, because that's what we got with the first personal story. Because there's a series of different ways you can go through it from the start. And I think they'd have to have that for the side quests as well, just so it lived up to the original one. So that's why it could get a little time and expensive because of needing to have a number of options to make it feel to make it feel good and also have some good variety in it. So yeah, but still, there's a lot because there's so much scope there. They can open this up to like, to get some Codan personal story going on there. You've got to go into the culture over there. You got to do this. You got to do that. There's so much they can just send you off and go into a specific sort of cultural aspect of the world, which would be great. And I'd really like to see him do more of that.
All right, coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the gem store items for the new makeover stuff. But first, I want to tell you guys really quickly about a deal we got going on with Audible. I want you guys to check out Audible free for 30 days and also hook you up with a free book. We love free, right? So go over to audible.com/gamebreaker, sign up today. You're going to get a free book and you're going to get to try Audible absolutely free for 30 days. If you've never checked out Audible, it's audiobooks. You download the app, you put it on your iPhone or your Android or some of your other devices. You put the app on there, you get a free book, you check it out 30 days, you become addicted, and you sign up like I have for the past 5 years because it's awesome. Check it out today. Go to audible.com/gamebreaker for your free book. All right, so
I saw it.
What's up?
I was going to say, I saw Olivia got the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Stephen Fry audio book.
And she fell in love with it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I haven't read that in years. I actually read that one, but I think now I want to get the audio just to hear the narration.
Stephen Fry is just a god.
That's what's awesome. You throw some headphones on and you just go back and you listen, take you to a whole other place. Thanks for the plug. Audible.com/
That's right.
Gamebreaker. Anybody screw up their characters and character creation? Anybody kind of feel like they screwed up? I don't know. Does anybody here look slightly silly that they've kind of been waiting for this?
Not in this game.
No. Well, the thing is, it's different for us because we've been like practicing our characters since like March.
I spent 3 hours in betas just being like, no. I want the eyes to be slightly more tilted up, and then just staring at screenshots when betas weren't up. And you're like, no, a little more up in the next one.
Well, for all you guys out there, guys and gals who maybe kind of screwed up, maybe your character looks slightly silly, maybe you don't take time with important decisions. There's good news. ArenaNet has they're ready to correct your poor decision making in exchange for gems. So the self-style hair kit and the total makeover kit are both now in game. Did anyone? So nobody. I think Richie picked this up because he did a video on it actually. Which he's not here today to talk about. I did not pick this up because I did the same thing. I took way too much time in beta and made a perfect character that I do not want to change.
Yeah. In Guild Wars 1, I was not so careful. The first day I bought the game, I bought it like purely on a whim. Like a friend had picked it up and I was like, I really want to play this game. So I make a character and I was really excited to get into the game, so I wasn't so focused on character creation. I was like, she's going to have a helmet on at some point. I'm like, so a year later, I have this not attractive character with a name that I don't really care for, but she's my main. And so I worked on replacing her, and I got a new elementalist, traded her the same way, brought her up to level 20. And I was like, cool, like I can work on beating the campaigns with her later. For now, I just need to clear out that spot with my awful old character. Delete the character, and days later, they announced the original version of makeover kits for Guild Wars 1. It was... I can't hear makeover kit without wanting to just sob.
Tough day. That was a tough day.
It was a tough day.
What do you guys think of the pricing on these? So the hair kit, first of all, it's 250 gems for one, or you can get 5 of them for 1,000 gems. Which, first of all, the first thing that comes to mind is if you have to buy 5, I guess.
What have you done with your life?
Yes.
Yeah,
you make a lot of bad decisions. Unless you're just thinking forward and you just know that you're going to make bad decisions. You're just like, man, I know I screw up and I'll probably screw up again and I'll screw up again. I don't know.
It's just, unless you've got really twitchy hands and you're somehow clicking submit, like.
Oops, I hit randomize right before I created my character.
Whoops, I don't know how that happened. The total makeover kit is 350 gems for 1 or 1,400 gems for 5. So buy in bulk.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the opportunity cost, basically of what you could get instead with those gems, the utility of being able to completely change what your character looks like, I think is pretty good value compared to say buying a mini pet pack or something like that. It's something that's going to last, and it is quite important comparatively to other things you could buy for about the same amount of gem.
Yeah, that's about $3 to $5 for any one of the items, so that's not bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad either. And as was pointed out on Twitter, it's a makeover kit, not the witness protection program. So
That was cute.
yeah, there's no name change. Doesn't change your name. We're still waiting for that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Still waiting. Come on, ArenaNet. Let's go, chop chop. Role players are getting married by the day and can't change their second name. This has to be the #1 problem in Guild Wars 2. I think we have
serious oppression right there.
It's causing divorces before they can even get to the point where the marriage comes through.
It's like a wedge. It's like a wedge.
At this point, you just have to find some other player whose last name already matches yours. Be like, oh, we need to get married because it's so convenient. So.
It's the Guild Wars 2 version of the glass slipper, basically. It's finding somebody with the same surname.
All right, let's do a couple of really quick viewer questions. If you guys have questions for GuildCast, send them to submit@gamebreaker.tv and keep an eye on our Facebook page. Every Wednesday, we usually put the word out for a couple questions. I know you guys have no idea. I'm just going to spring them on you. I know. I got some. I got some. I got one. I picked a couple.
Oh, Lord, help us.
See, our producer forgot to give us questions, but I found some right before the show. I'll put these guys in the spot. John Stroob wants to know, would you rebuild the Hall of Monuments, giving its old purpose, or an extended one? See, it's a good question.
I think the Hall of Monuments was necessary because we didn't have player housing. So the Hall of Monuments was kind of the closest thing you had to a place to say, this is all the cool stuff I've done. And so I would like to see them incorporate more Hall of Monuments type stuff into player housing when they're giving the kind of renovation we already talked about. So yeah, like I wouldn't mind a Hall of Monuments-esque stuff being in the game.
Scott?
I'd like them to put that sort of functionality in somewhere else. I don't know, personal instance. I think that I like the fact that it's kind of its current form in the sort of like harkening back to Guild Wars. I like the sort of, you know, it's a little treat for people who play Guild Wars, seeing the sort of like its crumbled down, ruined version of the old part, and the little characters it's got that basically link back to that. I think it's a nice sort of harkening back to its ancestry. So I like it as it is, to be honest. So if they were going to do some of the sort of outward facets of the old version, I'd like to do it in a new way.
Yes.
All right, next up, this one from Philippe Buhov. This is more of a statement/question. I don't know. All he really said was less PvE, more PvP development ? And all it made me think about was, and I wanted to, I'll spin this out into a topic really quick to talk about, is, are we seeing an issue seriously that we have not seen as much PvP stuff, you know, the tools, developments? I mean, we up through beta, you know, we were hearing about leaderboards, and esports was a big thing, and spectator mode, and all these things that were going to reinforce the PvP side of Guild Wars 2. And Guild were super hyped about the PvP and Guild Wars 2 becoming up. You know, you saw professional esports Guild Wars 2 teams coming up, and they were calling themselves professional teams. Like, there were people who were really taking this super seriously and thinking that, like, oh wow, maybe this is going to be like, maybe this will take off.
Home.
Right. Maybe this will be like the next League of Legends or StarCraft 2. Maybe it'll take hold. And we haven't seen any of those things take place. And we have seen some interest drop off. I mean, I guess I'll announce it now. We're putting GuildCast, our PvP centric, you know, theory crafting show on hold right now. And I think it's because of this reason, right? Like, we haven't seen a whole lot of development in that area. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that player base is sort of sitting around wondering where are these leaderboards? Where are these things that touch, like we can't track it. Because that's sort of like the metagame for them. Yeah. What do you think? Why are we being left out in the cold? What's going on?
So, like, in all fairness to ArenaNet, that was stuff that when they were talking about it, they were like, we would like to. And, you know, they were obviously focused on getting the game out of the door. And they've obviously been focused on upcoming content. And they've got the arenas and the paid. So they have made some progress. But they do need to have that happen sooner rather than later, or else they're going to have, I think, missed their window for opportunity. But if we're talking about mechanics that we were promised and don't have yet, I think guesting takes priority.
Very much, please.
Oh, yes, you had to bring up the guesting.
I did. I'm bitter at this point.
I'm beyond bitter. It impinges on my enjoyment of the game completely, not having guesting. I can't have fun with the social groups I want to have fun with because guesting isn't in. So that kind of makes that it cuts down on my playtime. It really does because going back to structured PvP. Sorry, they need to start rolling something out, or at least putting out a timetable, but reassuring people that this is something that's going to be a refocused priority soon. Because you said they're missing a window of opportunity here. A lot of the reason people were so intent on their builds and that metagame was because they saw a whole world of competitive PvP coming, and they wanted to be ready for it.
Yep.
And it's become much more sort of vague and amorphous now.
And everybody's seen this drop. Like I'm hearing it from multiple people. I mean, I'm hearing it from like people who run like blogs that talk specifically about PvP, talk about theory builds and things like that. And they were tapped into that community, and they were seeing huge amounts of people like looking at their guides, looking at their videos, like wanting to learn this stuff. And it's dropped off significantly. And it's basically just because nobody knows what's happening right now, and they're all just waiting.
Yep. Well, that's it. I mean, purchasable tournaments is a good step, but it's a step, and we don't know what the next one is or when the end goal is.
Yep.
So just having that, again, this is big picture, small picture. They might have the big picture, but we can only see the small picture, and it's causing frustration, I think, amongst a lot. And if you start off really excited about metagame, and then you don't see a place to truly express that to the extent that you want to, you're not going to be interested in the metagame for long, and that might be happening.
Because Christmas doesn't, as far as we know, have like a big one-off event that's going to take a lot of prep work. I mean, I'm sure there will be things that they are working on clearly for it, but it's not like we have this Kark invasion, so we have to make sure everything goes right. I'm really hoping that we get a Christmas present sort of patch that gives us, more PvP stuff. Guesting and some other things that are like necessary moving forward. I think that would be a nice substitute for a big one-time event.
Elizabeth Claire, follow her on the Twitter at Elizabeth Claire, and of course go over to massively.com every single week and read all her stuff. Be sure to see her or hear her as Klaus in Klaus and Squirrel, because I just gave it away. Scott Hawks, follow him on Twitter at Jaramore. Go over to Zam.com, editor-in-chief over at Zam, and be sure to watch Klaus and Squirrel, as he is Klaus as well. You don't want to miss that. Follow me on Twitter, Gary Gannon, and you can follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV. I don't plug our YouTube page enough. Follow our YouTube page. It's Gamebreaker TV and the number 2. Page? Yeah, we're gonna kind of push this more. Gamebreaker TV 2 is our YouTube page, and we need to show that some love. So go over there.
You're finally getting around to pushing that. Good.
It's dude. It's 20,000. 2012. I hear YouTube is big.
Apparently, that's what all the kids are saying.
Hey man, look where we've gotten without it.
Without it.
There you go.
Indeed.
You don't even need YouTube.
Flex. Follow Gamebreaker TV over at Gamebreaker TV, and come over to the show live every single Wednesday at 6 PST. Oh, I got so much to tell everybody. Wait, I'll bring these guys back for it. 2012 Gamebreaker Video Game Awards happening. You vote. You cast your vote. Let us know who you think should win. We're also giving away 3 pairs of Astro A40s. These sexy beasts right here.
They're just very sexy.
All you gotta do is go over to gamebreaker.tv/giveaway. That's the URL, or go to the front page. There's a banner there. It says 2012 Video Game Awards. Click that. Go cast your vote. Tell us who you think is going to be, best MMO, best free to play, most anticipated. We got a bunch of categories. You guys vote.
TSW for everything.
We're gonna tally them up. And we're gonna do a live show, and we'll have an award ceremony and the whole deal. And I think that's if my brain works. No, it doesn't work very well, but it's probably December 28th at 8 PST. I think it's on that page. Go check it out. But don't forget that.
Yeah, that's 30 days from now. That's right.
Yeah, so it's right in between Christmas and New Year. So make sure to go over, because you win a pair of Astro A40s. So you don't want to miss these. Things are like the best headset out there.
Sure.
They really are. Have a great week, Klaus and Squirrel, and hopefully Richie isn't eaten by a Yeti.